A new program starting up in the Miami Valley to provide immigrants in the Dayton region with low-cost legal services. Lydia Bice spoke with city leaders and the director of that program. What do they tell you about it?
Yeah, Adam, this new program, Immigrant Connection, will be a new service here in West Carrollton that will assist immigrants with legal services such as green cards, U.S. citizenship, and work visas. Today, Dayton City Commissioner Matt Joseph told me that hundreds of immigrants come to the Dayton region every year, so he knows that there is a high demand for this kind of help.
So these folks doing this at just a fraction of what it would normally cost people to have the service, it's awesome, really awesome. I can tell you they're highly anticipated already.
So when is this all going to be opened up and ready to go?
The program is going to have a soft launch beginning on October 3rd. Now, site director Steve Saltar shared more about that with me today.
We're going to go by appointment only. We're only going to be open 2 days a week to start with, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and then we'll see what folks really need.
Now, if you would like to learn more about Immigrant Connection and their services, you can head to icdayton.org, and I have linked that website at the bottom of this web story on Dayton247now.com. Back to you.
Lydia, thank you. For the first time tonight, we are hearing the 911 calls from last night's pedestrian strike.
A lady was outside with her kids, and I don't know if it was her husband or her boyfriend or whatever, but he ran her over with his truck, with the baby in her hand.
So someone got ran over by a truck?
Yeah.
This all happened on East 3rd Street yesterday evening, and the caller says the woman who was hit was holding a baby when it happened. We know the woman was taken to Miami Valley Hospital, the child to Dayton Children's. We're working to learn more about their condition and who is behind the wheel. As we learn anything new, we'll update you on air and online. Also, Dayton police taking to Facebook as they investigate a separate hit and run. This is the aftermath from that incident. It took place Saturday night on Harshman Road. The car that was hit turned over, sending the driver to the hospital. The other car who caused the accident then drove away. Police searching for a dark blue 2011 to 2014 Dodge Charger that's missing its front bumper and grille. You know anything about this? Call Crime Stoppers. You can remain anonymous. The number's on your screen, 937-222-STOP. A paraplegic man is settling with the city of Dayton for $125,000. This all follows this controversial traffic stop in 2021. Clifford Owensby Sr. filed a complaint after he says his civil rights were violated by those officers. In the body camera video, Owensby can be seen telling officers he's paraplegic when he's asked to get out of the car. After asking for a supervisor, he was then pulled out of the car by his hair. Now, the president of the Dayton unit of the NAACP speaking with us about that settlement tonight. He says, quote, while the city's law director stated there was no admission of liability by the city, the six-figure settlement, along with the city's settlement with the U.S. Department of Justice, says it all guilty. Now, we applaud Dayton Police Chief Cameron Afzal for taking the steps necessary to deal with the officers who violated department policies and standards. This is not the first time the city of Dayton is settling out of court due to the American Disability Act violation. Last month, the city reached a $45,000 settlement with Jack Runzer. The deaf man who has cerebral palsy filed a complaint after he was arrested by police in 2020. Expected tomorrow, a sentencing hearing will be held for a former Butler Township officer who was found guilty on assault charges. That's according to court documents. These charges stem from this video where Todd Stanley can be seen punching a woman repeatedly. He was called there for a disagreement between the woman and a McDonald's employee over food. Stanley left the department 3 months after the January incident. New video from the Dayton Police Department shows what they say would have been an ATV theft. Officers say they approached a teen who says he was buying the ATV. That's when officers felt the bag the teen was carrying and realized there was a gun inside. They also found that the teen did not have any money to make the purchase. Now, he was arrested for carrying a concealed weapon. Police suggesting that if you have anything of value to sell, do it at a safe exchange zone to deter any potential robberies. You can use the West District headquarters on Washington. Another option is the Central District location along Salem. There's also a location on East Helena Street. Lastly, you can use the Wayne Avenue location as well. Former Cincinnati Bengal Adam Pac-Man Jones appearing in court today after being kicked off a CVG plane. Now, Jones was charged with terroristic threatening, disorderly conduct, and alcohol intoxication in a public place. This was after police say he threatened staff after complaining about a charger port on the flight. Now, Jones has refuted the claims Judge ruled that he can still travel, but he cannot fly to or from the Covington, Kentucky airport. Well, over 60 rest stops here in Ohio will now have Narcan readily available in their facilities. That comes after the State Department of Health says there were nearly 5,000 unintentional overdose deaths last year alone. Gwen Falloon joining us now in studio with where the drug can be found. Gwen?
Yeah, Adam, so take a look at this map. You can see it here behind me. The Ohio Department of Transportation says 65 rest stops are going to be equipped with nasal spray Narcan kits. In our area, though, that includes locations along I-70 in Preble County, 2 rest stops on I-75 in Miami County, as well as rest stops in Auglaize and Logan counties. Now, doctors say when someone overdoses, their respiratory receptors often become blocked, which essentially tells the body that the person no longer needs to breathe. However, once Narcan is administered, those receptors become unblocked. Now, keep in mind, Narcan is used to reverse the effects of an opioid overdose. However, doctors tell me there is really a low risk to administering it, regardless of whether you know an opiate was taken or not.
That's one of the beautiful things about this medication is that it really does not harm. There is no harm to be had there. If they're overdosing on something else and you hit them with that, it's not going to harm them. So it's really worth taking the risk.
Now, I also spoke with a mother who has been affected by addiction. She tells me the increase of Narcan in public spaces is a huge step in the right direction, especially high traffic areas like those rest stops. Back to you.
All right, Gwen, thanks. Well, after the rain was around for much of the day today, once again, looks like it's finally moving out of the area here, Natalie.
Yeah, a couple of lingering showers around, but other than that, quieter conditions and eventually just foggy conditions. We're going to wake up to some pretty dense fog by early tomorrow morning, so I would already start planning ahead for some extra time for that morning commute because it looks like it could potentially be widespread fog across the area. But for right now, we do have those showers now making their way out of the region with right now calmer weather than we had earlier. Here's a look at some of the totals that we've seen over the past 48 hours. Most of the rain has been off to our west, and then we still did see some higher totals for our eastern counties, very isolated amounts there. But with that rainfall and a calmer night tonight, fog is looking likely. And although there's just a dense fog advisory for our southwestern counties, I do think much of the Miami Valley is going to be waking up to fog by early tomorrow morning. So giving it a red light for that morning commute. We'll be hanging out in the lower 60s. Fog will be dense at times. So again, allow some extra time. Make sure those fog lights are on, and then be extra careful as you're out and about on the roads. I'll have a look at the rest of the week because we do have sunshine returning. That's coming up.
Governor Mike DeWine and the state's director of the Department of Health urging Ohioans should get the updated COVID-19 vaccine. Now, DeWine and Dr. Bruce Vanderhoff touted the importance of the vaccine during a news conference today.
This new COVID shot is particularly important for those who are 65 and older, as well as those who are immunocompromised or have serious underlying chronic health conditions, because these Ohioans are the ones who continue to suffer the largest burden of severe illness and death.
The new vaccine targets the new strains of the virus that have become more popular. Governor DeWine himself tested positive for COVID just 10 days ago. He expressed these new vaccines and medications have helped greatly when it comes to a patient's experience.
I had been vaccinated, as you know, several times before. And, I took the drugs that were prescribed as soon as I was diagnosed with it. And frankly, I've had a pretty easy time. I'm in my 10th day and, I feel good.
Now, the shot should be covered by every insurance program, but for those uninsured, there are options. Eligible uninsured children can get that vaccine through ODH. Uninsured adults can get it through the CDC's new Bridge program. Information on the Bridge program can be found at cdc.gov. Food insecurity is an ongoing problem, and all month long, the Food Bank has been partnering up with Kroger for Hunger Action Month. It's not too late to get involved, though. Multiple organizations in the area are continuously helping those who are most in need of it. Jenny Bork spoke to 2 different groups and found out how they're making a difference.
I talked to representatives from the Food Bank and Blue Star families. They told me that food insecurity in our area is a much larger problem than many people might think.
This is an issue that affects 1 out of 8 people in the Miami Valley currently, and the statistics are even worse for kids. For kids, it's 1 in 6.
I spoke with Dr. Jerry Lynn Maples, the Blue Star Family's chapter director, and she told me 1 in 4 military families are experiencing food insecurity. You can volunteer with both of these organizations by visiting their website, and we'll provide those links for you on the web version of this story. Blue Star Families is looking for volunteers for this coming Wednesday and Thursday for the event that they're hosting. They're planning on giving out 400 boxes each of non-perishable food, personal care items, and household items. Back to you.
Well, concern continues to grow as a nationwide EMS shortage continues to impact emergency care. We explain the reasons for why it's happening now. And the government shutdown is looming. Less than 48 hours, the impact that shutdown could have on the U.S. military.
And rain is moving out. I'll let you know what it's looking like for Football Friday. That's coming up. Here's a live look from our Eco Plumber Skycam. You're watching Dayton 24/7 now.
New tonight, an ambulance and EMS worker shortage raising concerns nationwide about the impact to your emergency care. Didi Gotten joining us now with a look at what's happening and why.
There's been a historical staffing challenge with ambulances, EMTs, and paramedics. A 2022 American Ambulance Association Newton 360 study said EMS agencies are experiencing a full turnover of all staff every 3 to 4 years. On top of that, according to EMS One, before the pandemic, lead times for new ambulances ranged from 90 to 120 days from order to delivery. At the time of their report in August of last year, they said the wait is now 24 months and longer.
been an EMT for 33 years, but I stopped running calls about 3 years ago. It used to be that when you would go to work, you worried about your own health, but it would never, ever placed your family in jeopardy. When COVID occurred, it really changed that dynamic.
We're struggling with vehicles as well, and it's another fallout of the inflation that we're experiencing and just the supply chain shortages.
Pay could be another factor impacting EMS worker retention, according to experts I spoke with who say this is a critical situation that could impact care when seconds could mean the difference between life and death. Reporting for the National Desk, I'm Dee Dee Gatton.
Well, you might have noticed the fourth and final supermoon of 2023. It's going to reach peak illumination tomorrow morning. According to NASA, the full harvest moon will peak just before 6 a.m., but it is expected to appear full through Saturday morning. A supermoon is when a full moon happens near the moon's closest point to Earth in its monthly orbit. NASA says September's full moon will be about 5% bigger, 13% brighter than the average full moon. It's also a harvest moon, which refers to the full bright moon that occurs closest to the start of fall.
And skies will be clearing out a bit to be able to see that moon, and especially as we head into tomorrow night as that rain moves out. So the rain that we've seen over these past 48 hours was certainly heavier in some spots than in others. And in fact, at the airport, only 0.2 of an inch of precipitation, leaving us at 0.54 for the month of September. We're still in the top 10 driest Septembers on record, even with that rain that we saw. And we're still 2.5 inches below the normal for the month and almost 3 inches below normal for the year. Now, this is our latest drought monitor. The map is released today, but the data is from Tuesday, so it does not include the rain that we've had today. But moderate drought conditions have been expanded into our northwestern counties. Rest of us under abnormally dry conditions, but hopefully this rain has helped things out just a bit. Here's a look at what we have lingering on. This area of low pressure is heading out. I'll have the details on the rest of the evening and the rest of the week coming up in a bit.
In a change of plans, former President Trump will not try to move his election interference case out of Georgia. That's according to a new filing from Trump's attorneys. Earlier this month, Trump notified the judge that he may try to get his state case moved into the federal system. That is permitted under federal law if the defendant's alleged behavior relates to their government duties. But in today's filing, Trump's attorneys wrote their decision is based on Trump's confidence that the Fulton County Superior Court will protect his constitutional right to a fair trial. Trump has until tomorrow to formally make the request to remove the case. Live look at the nation's capital tonight. A possible government shutdown still looming out there. The Senate and House pushing ahead today with conflicting government funding plans, raising the odds of that shutdown. The Senate holding a procedural vote on its stopgap funding bill that has broad bipartisan support. The House, though, plans to hold late-night votes on 4 partisan appropriation bills that have no chance of becoming law, and even if they did, they wouldn't prevent a shutdown. Congress has to get legislation to President Biden's desk by midnight Saturday to avoid the furloughs and disruptions the shutdown brings. The president remaining optimistic.
President, do you think the government shutdown is inevitable?
I don't think anything is inevitable in politics.
The Senate's bipartisan measure would extend spending until mid-November and authorize funding for domestic disasters and aid to Ukraine. Now, this is unlikely to pass the House, though. The Department of Defense is warning a government shutdown would impact troop readiness. Deputy Pentagon Press Secretary Sabrina Singh called it the worst-case scenario the military can face. Now, the active duty troops and reservists would continue to work without pay. More than 400,000 members of the DoD civilian workforce would be furloughed. Moves and changes of station would be halted. Officials say it also plays into the hands of U.S. competitors because we can't make up for lost time or training events.
We really shouldn't be in this position where we're talking about parsing out who gets paid and when the reality is we have employees across the federal government that deserve an on-time appropriations bill, an on-time budget, and deserve Congress to work in their behalf to honor those deadlines.
Military members will receive their end-of-month paychecks tomorrow, but October's mid-month pay will be delayed if money is not appropriated. As the government shutdown looms, Hawaiians are questioning how this will impact them with Maui as it recovers from the devastating wildfires. Several federal agencies are there right now helping with cleanup and housing issues for survivors of that fire. It's unclear whether Congress can hammer out a deal. Again, they have until Saturday, and there's some real questions about where Maui goes from here.
A shutdown is not the answer, obviously. I mean, it's hard for us here in the midst of this potential shutdown to be talking about how much we can do because we don't know if government is going to be able to do anything.
FEMA still has money it can allocate, but it will likely have to ration funds in the event of a shutdown. All right, here's a live look from our Eco Plumber Sky Cam over Beaver Creek tonight. The rain looks like it's leaving us, but fog sounds like the issue tomorrow, huh?
Yeah, especially for the areas that saw a decent amount of precipitation through these past 48 hours with that saturated ground as well as calm winds. That's going to help some fog to develop. We still have a pretty humid atmosphere out there, but the rain has made its way out. So overnight that fog develops, and I do think it's going to be pretty thick at times by early tomorrow morning. So please do take those proper precautions as you're out and about. Allow some extra time. Take it slowly as you're driving for our Friday morning commute. Now, that will clear out by the afternoon. Highs will get back up into the mid, even some upper 70s. Saturday morning, some patchy fog, and then by Saturday afternoon, highs getting back up to 80 degrees. So here's a look at that dense fog advisory for our southwestern counties. I do think we could potentially see it extended more into the rest of the area heading into tonight. But again, red light for that morning commute as we have those foggy conditions expected.
A Republican House-led committee holding its first impeachment inquiry hearings into President Biden, what leaders on both sides of the aisle are saying about it, and the president's alleged actions. Plus, the UAW strike officially entering week 2. Ahead, we break down the demands that need to be met and what will happen if both sides can't reach an agreement by tomorrow. You're watching Dayton 24/7 now. The Republican-led House Oversight Committee holding its first hearing in its impeachment inquiry into the president.
For years, President Biden has lied to the American people about his knowledge of and participation in his family's corrupt business schemes.
Republicans are moving forward in their claims of a mountain of evidence revealing Biden abused his office for financial gain. There's still no public evidence, though, to date that Biden personally received any money or was entangled in his son's overseas dealings. Democrats are using Republicans' own words against them now, quoting more moderate members of the party who question the impeachment efforts.
Clown show, foolishness, terribly misguided, stupidity, failure to lead, lunatics, disgraceful, new low, pathetic. These are Republicans talking about Republicans.
The first hearing won't reveal any new evidence or witness testimony. The witnesses don't have firsthand knowledge of anything about Hunter Biden's overseas deals or his father's possible involvement. The White House will be announcing an executive order on artificial intelligence in the coming weeks. Now, the president says his administration will take action this fall on the technology. The president commented yesterday on the issue during a meeting with presidential advisors on science and technology.
My administration is going to continue to work with bipartisan legislation so America leads the way toward responsible AI innovation.
Now, the president did not expand on the contents of the executive order, but it's expected to build on an earlier proposal for an AI Bill of Rights. He notes he wants to harness the power of AI while also protecting people from the profound risks it presents. The historic strike continuing tonight with a new deadline. The United Auto Workers Union giving Stellantis, General Motors, and Ford until tomorrow to reach a deal on a new contract before the strike expands. This is the 14th day of that strike, and union members, they are remaining calling for a pay increase, a 4-day work week with overtime beyond 32 hours. They also want union representation at new electric battery plants. It's the first time the UAW has striked against all three companies at the same time. As of tonight, there are strikes at 38 plants across 28 states. That includes the GM Cincinnati Parts Distribution Plant in Westchester, a Stellantis facility in Streetsboro near Cleveland, as well as the Toledo Stellantis Assembly Complex. Well, Chaminade Julian winning big at home against Fenwick. Ahead, we take you down to the field and explain what put CJ on top on Thursday Night Lights. You're watching Dayton 24/7 now.